One's Worm Hat. This video is called Hope for Those Who Hate Everybody. And I'm just going to be reading from Luke chapter 14. I'm just the kind of person that I hate most people, and I think it's a good thing. So I'm going to read from Luke chapter 14. And it came to pass as he went into the house of one of the chief Pharisees to eat bread on the Sabbath day, that they watched him. And behold, there was a certain man before him which had the dropsy. And Jesus answering spake unto the lawyers and the Pharisees, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day? And they held their peace, and he took him and healed him and let him go, and answered them, saying, Which of you shall have an ass or an ox fallen into a pit, and will not straightway pull him out on the Sabbath day? So I'll just stop for a second. Jesus was very adversarial. There were multitudes of people around him at all times, calling out the people, putting themselves in the high seats, people who exalted themselves on earth. And they could not answer him again to these things. And he put forth a parable to those which were bidden, when he marked how they chose out the chief room, saying unto them, When thou art bidden of any man to a wedding, sit not down in the highest room, lest a more honorable man than thou be bidden of him. And he that bade thee, and him come and say to thee, Give this man place, and thou begin with shame to take the lowest room. But when thou art bidden, go and sit down in the lowest room, that when he that bade thee cometh, he may say unto thee, Friend, go up higher, then shalt thou have worship in the presence of them that sit at meat with thee. For whosoever exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. Then said he also to him that bade him, When thou makest a dinner or a supper, call not thy friends, nor thy brethren, neither thy kinsmen, nor thy rich neighbors, lest they also bid thee again, and a recompense be made to thee. But when thou makest a feast, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and thou shalt be blessed, for they cannot recompense thee. For thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. So I'll stop here for a second, because it's all about context and knowing that Jesus is speaking to the Pharisees that are exalting themselves above all the poor and the maimed. And I believe in this time, right, if you were poor or maimed or lame or blind, people basically would say, well, you're like that because God hates, because you must have been a sinner, your people must have been sinners, and that's why you're poor, and that's why you're, the Pharisees, they thought that they were so good, but they weren't helping. It's just like people today. It's just like the rich people today when I read this, I think of rich people throwing galas to help feed the poor Africans that probably don't even exist, and they just pocket the money, and they don't invite the poor people to come eat their food at their gala. They throw it for their rich, snobby, other trannies, other rich people. And that's because it's all about a recompense be made to thee. You shouldn't help people to get something back for it. Even if you're helping somebody out to feel good about yourself, that's not why you should be helping somebody out. Think of the people posting to Facebook, oh, look at me handing this thing to a homeless person. Hey, it's not right. That's not how you're supposed to do it. Same thing, you're not supposed to throw a party claiming to be helping poor people, but you're not actually helping poor people at the party. You're just hanging out with your rich, snobby friends. You're being a hypocrite. When you're doing a bake sale for your tranny church, selling brownies to fat people, and you claim that it's helping to feed poor people, I don't know, that just doesn't make sense to me. Why don't you just make food and feed poor people? There's homeless people all over the place. So I'll just keep reading, because I think stuff like this is funny, at least the way that I interpret this, the way that I see things like this when I read it. And when one of them that sat at meat with him heard these things, he said unto him, Blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. I just think of it like this. Jesus is calling out the people. So Jesus just did something that could get him stoned to death, healing somebody on the Sabbath day. These people want to stone Jesus, and he's calling them out. And he just told them, you're a bunch of hypocrite, snobby people, and look, he's bashing them. And then one of these people just makes some stupid statement that basically proves that he has no idea what Jesus is talking about. Blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. And then, so what does Jesus do? He responds with another parable. Then said he unto him, A certain man made a great supper, and bade many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So that the servant came and showed his lord these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor, and the maimed, and the halt, and the blind. And the servant said, Lord, it is done, as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. And the Lord said unto the servant, Go out into the highways and hedges, compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say unto you, that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. So I think that Jesus is just saying who he's here. Jesus is here for the lowly, the humbled, not for the rich, because they're just going to have excuses for everything. Oh, think about it. Jesus is here for those that want to lose everything. I really like the parable of the pearl merchant who finds one pearl, which is Christ, which is living with Christ forever, and he sells everything, all of his pearls, just for this one thing. You need to be willing to give up everything. And that's why the more you hate this place and want to get out of here, the stronger your connection with Christ can be, because he's none of this stuff. So Christ isn't here for the people that have all their oxen to take care of and, I don't know, preoccupied with their life here, basically. They're not going to be ready. And there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, If any man come to me, and hate not his father, and mother, and wife, and children, and brethren, and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. And so yeah, this is the spirit of this video. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And this is really the opposite of the self-help, self-love, kind of new agey stuff, which is love everything about yourself, even your faults, embrace it. If this is just the progressivism, to embrace your faults, to embrace your own evils, and to just flaunt it and pretend it's the coolest thing ever. Instead of, yeah, I hate myself because I am still a sinner, and I want to get out of here where I don't have to, this place just every day, I hate it. And yeah, I hate my father and my mother. And yeah, my wife too, my children, because this whole place is just evil. So I see what's happening. My wife still watches TV, and my children are still all exposed to this stuff, and they have to grow up into this world. And I see them adopting the matrix, and I hate myself for still being here and still being a slave to the flesh. And that's why you need to hate all that stuff. And if you're gonna just follow Jesus 100%. So I don't want this video to be too negative, because I think that, and I don't think that's how you're supposed to take this. I think that this should just be comforting. If sometimes you feel like you're too much of a downer, man, I'm always hating on everything. Like every time somebody brings something up, I'm just like, ugh, always. I don't get excited about stuff, well, because this world sucks, and you're not supposed to be happy here. This is Satan's world right now. So, and we've all even been tainted to this point. So even loving yourself too much is not good, because we all need to change. It's not going to be like this. There's only a few more verses, and I'll go through them. It's more parables, and I don't think that it's ones that I have completely understood. And I think that at a certain point it becomes just a limitation of language. Language in general, there are certain things, the ineffable, which just means there are certain things that you literally, language cannot even describe. And English language in particular is a very satanic language, and you can tell it's been constructed what's the word, obfuscate, to, you can tell that the English language is built to be confusing and to have double meanings. And you can tell that those in power love to play with those double meanings. Just here, I'll give you an example. I mean, here's just one example of millions. Sierra has a song "Like a Boy." You just the statement "like a boy." It could, does it mean that somebody likes a boy, or does it mean like a boy as like you are a boy? They like statements like this that can be taken both ways, and it just shows you that language is insufficient. Okay, so I'll just finish here. For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest haply after he hath laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king, going to make war against another king, sitteth not down first and consulteth whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an embassage, and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. I think that this is one of the harder parables for me to really understand. I've been contemplating it kind of all morning. And right, because we have kind of sandwiched here, so I'll just show you. Here's where Jesus talks about you need to hate everything and everybody. Hate yourself, your mom, your dad, your wife, your children. Otherwise, you can't be his disciple. And it just means you need to be ready to shed everything here and follow Jesus. And then so what this last one, you need to forsaketh everything that you have, or else you won't be his disciple. And the two parables that are in here are about, they both talk about knowing from the beginning that you have enough to finish. Right? The beginning one is you don't start building something unless you know that you're going to finish it. And kind of the same thing with the second one. You're not going to go to war unless you know that you're going to be victorious. And so it's still not something that I think I have completely understood, but just from, I think the easiest way that I could explain the way that I kind of interpret this is that Jesus and his Jesus's disciples are like the building materials, or the money that you know is going to be sufficient to finish, or Jesus' disciples, it's the army that is going to be sufficient enough to destroy the enemy. And so why is he making this comparison here? And I'm just guessing that it's the only ones that Jesus can count on to be his disciples are the ones that he knows are ready to get rid of everything and follow him. If you're not willing to get rid of everything, even yourself, then you're not going to be counted among what Jesus needs in order to build this tower, or in order to be victorious in this battle. So that's just one interpretation. You can leave. I would love to hear your guys' interpretation, because I'm generally pretty good at analogies and comparisons like this. I think that this is these two middle analogies compared to talking about hating everybody and yourself. I just think it's very interesting. And these two right here, please let me know what you think about this. Salt is good, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land, nor yet for the dunghill, but men cast it out. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. And I'll just end on this note. Because while I think it's important to try to pay attention to the parables and to try to learn things from them, I think it's also important to remember that even the apostles a lot of times were stupefied by the things that Jesus would say. And there will be a time where it won't be like this. So John chapter 16, verse 25, These things have I spoken unto you in Proverbs, but the time cometh when I shall no more speak unto you in Proverbs, but I shall show you plainly of the Father. So until that day, we'll just keep reading the Bible and doing our best and praying for discernment. God bless everybody, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Oh, I keep forgetting to do this, but now I remembered. So you know how it talks about knowing that you can finish your building? Yeah. For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost whether he have sufficient to finish it? I thought this was really interesting. If you visit Greece, you'll notice that when people build their buildings in Greece, they leave them unfinished like this. So many houses, what's up with this 13? So many houses in Greece look just like this. They have unfinished tops to them, which is kind of directly going against the Bible. And I think that they leave it like that in case they want to build another story on it. But I remembered that. It really is a thing. In Greece, their houses are really ugly like this. They're all unfinished on top. It's really, really common. And they're not all like that, but there's a lot of strange unfinished houses in Greece, just like this. All right. God bless everybody.